right. Hello, everybody. Good evening. It's Monday night, 7 o'clock. That means it's time for the yard sign. We appreciate you tuning in. As always, on Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, and again, we ask you to follow us also on Instagram and Twitter. We're all over social media. We appreciate you for watching. It's the most important and relevant podcast in politics. I'm your host, Johnny Torres. Let me see if I can find my fancy little graphic here. There we go. Thank you so much for watching. We're going to talk about this week's news. Again, a lot has happened since last Monday, even right up to the beginning of this show, so we have a lot to talk about. We're going to jump right in it, but I'm going to go ahead and start turning up the mics for the troublemakers sitting at the big table, and it's our usual cast of characters over here. And I haven't even turned on the camera, and you guys are already causing trouble over
What
there.
did I do?
We're trying to start our watch parties, Johnny. We're trying to start our watch parties. Okay.
All right, from left to right, that beautiful teddy bear right there, that's Anibal Cabrera. How you doing, sir?
Very good, very good. It's a good Monday. Good,
I know.
Good days.
Sexy man with the open shirt there, man. Can't get enough of that. That's Chris VerKuilen.
I put my microphone there on purpose.
I know. It looks like Jake's rubbing off on you there, buddy.
Happy Monday, y'all. Good to see you.
I know. All right. And then, of course, that beautiful gentleman on the far right, who makes Justin Timberlake look like a sloppy Joe, is Jake Hoffman.
Yes, so nice, so nice.
I forgot what I said last week that you said you liked a lot.
The face of the podcast.
Face of the podcast, no substance, something like that. I like that one. I like that one.
That's a hashtag right there.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, thank you again for watching, everybody. We appreciate you. Let's go ahead and bring up today's list of topics. Let's see. Iowa caucus, no surprise there. And, of course, the mess that has been. We'll get into that. The Dem primary, which naturally is also a complete disaster. No surprise. State of the Union. Lots to talk about there. We'll be picking that apart. And, of course, what followed immediately thereafter, which was the Senate trial. And, of course, the big vote. We'll talk about Trump's acquittal. And of course, here, statewide, we had some big news with a set of volunteers being attacked over the weekend. We'll pick that apart. And, of course, the ramifications of political violence. And we'll wrap this up with one of Jake's favorite topics, and that's all for transportation, and the fact that it's being, of course, discussed right now in Florida Supreme Court, and we'll talk about why that's a big deal, especially here in the Tampa Bay area, because that's where it originated, and of course what the fallout could be if this doesn't go their way. So back over to the big table, you guys. Again, so much to talk about, but kicking things off with, let's see.
Johnny, I'm going to kick off before
caucus.
you start with the Iowa caucus by plugging two big events this week.
Already?
Before we get all the way to the end.
We are taking over the show.
Tomorrow, if you're around the Tampa Bay area, the Tiger Bay Club, we have two young Republicans that are representing us in a Millennials in Politics dinner. One of them is pretty good. The other one has all right opinions. But I would support. Please come out and support. And he will be on the on this panel, and then Andrea as well, representing Tampa Bay Young Republicans. The event is on Facebook. It's on our Tampa Bay Young Republicans Facebook as well. And then the other thing I'm going to plug is the Tallahassee Quarterly for the Florida Federation of Young Republicans, which is coming up in about not this weekend but next weekend. So if you still want to get more involved with the Florida Federation of Young Republicans or what we're doing, we'll be taking a trip up to Tallahassee in 2 weekends.
We are pretty excited for that trip. Everyone on this table is actually going to be there.
That's right.
So we might be able to throw a last minute panel.
Well, first off, that's a bonus because if you come with us and you get to hang out with us in Tallahassee and listen to all of our opinions all weekend.
I mean, that is something that I would definitely pay $65 for.
I would too.
I know.
That's all. We can move into the actual show now.
I just intentionally wanted a little bit of an awkward pause there. But, all right, Iowa caucus, hot mess. Does not even begin to cover it. And, of course, the fallout being that now it's thrown all these campaigns into a frenzy because nobody knows who actually won the damn thing. And Pete Buttigieg, which you guys influenced me to not get behind because you think that he's got this problem, which he does, with the black community and minorities.
I don't think any of that changes.
Yeah,
we're talking about
I'm sorry,
here
this
in
is
Iowa.
Iowa. There
No,
are less minorities there than cows. Like, let's all be completely honest.
I
in this
get it, but
conversation.
these caucuses, if he continues to have this kind of momentum, could begin to overshadow some of those problems. I
I
think.
really don't think how you win the Democratic Party when you have a minority problem. Don't get me wrong. Iowa, yes, you're not. Who cares? And then New Hampshire, these are the most like largest, homogenous populations in the state, in the country when it comes to the Caucasian vote. And so, don't get me wrong. I don't mind us having the first primary caucus in Iowa and in New Hampshire, but to say that he won't have a minority problem later on when we get to Arizona and South Carolina is not really understanding the map.
Yeah, what's important, I think that Johnny was getting at, is that all 4 of our predictions last week were totally wrong.
No, they weren't.
I think that we all had Biden up around first or second.
I definitely did not.
I think you had Bernie.
Biden first.
Yeah, I had Biden first.
I had Biden either 4th or 5th.
You said I hope he's
So
going to be 4th
I
or
was
5th.
my wish
I
list.
think you're hedging.
I was hedging, of course. I played the stock.
Need to see the tape.
Yes, we know the tape.
That's right.
I had two predictions. One that he's on the top, or 1 or 2, or he completely implodes.
But
which is what happened.
nobody was anticipating that Buttigieg was going to be the front runner, though. I don't think any of us saw that coming.
Has anyone won yet, though? Because we still don't have results.
Well,
Nobody can actually win this bet.
Let's get into that part. So, yeah, the results are kind of like irrelevant, right? Like, nobody got a chance to actually claim victory, even though they kind of claimed victory. And there was definitely winners and losers from that night, or I guess multiple nights at this point. But what the story here is just the complete, cluster F that the Iowa caucus has been.
I was going to use that word.
Sorry. Well, I don't know how else to describe it. I mean, like, you look at a caucus, which already people were complaining about the process that it was. And everyone's like, why are we doing it this way? Because Democrats kind of, I think, probably knew that this isn't the best way of doing it. But it was complete mess, right? I mean, you had no results. You had an app that didn't work from a company called Shadow, which is
best name ever.
The worst thing ever, right?
It's
then
like from a Moonraker film.
I know.
And the thing is that you have this caucus that is a pretty simple thing to run if you really like step back and think about it. Like, and it just shows you that like the ineptitude of the Democratic Party and then the ineptitude of like government to get involved when they're trying to run things like this. And I mean, and then also then you can take the our side of it, which is probably more of a was it intentional? Was it something that you think was a little bit planned? Do you think that they were redistributing Bernie's votes to not have him be such a clear front runner?
I use the perfect example to describe the caucuses, Iowa caucus, and that's a Byzantine Empire style of voting.
Stop using that phrase that nobody understands.
Exactly. Do you know how the caucuses work? Now we do because we had to YouTube it to figure it out.
If I'm not mistaken, don't people have to like stand in certain parts of a gymnasium
Yes.
in order to count votes?
It's it's awesome. You have to proclaim who you support in front of your neighbors, which I think is a crazy. But
it's crazy.
It's really
very peer pressure.
It's peer pressure, but I think that's the purpose of it is for you to make a decision and then to move where it needs to move. Because if you don't get more than 15% of the vote in that particular caucus, then you have to move.
Yeah.
So people have to be, and I love that idea because again, these people have known each other forever.
Yeah.
It's like a big square dance for Democrats.
Yeah, it is, and then it went really, really poorly though because
Democrats can't count. So I mean, obviously,
I made the joke. I mean, it's like they did this in Broward County. Like, it's like, did they take notes? Like, I genuinely want to know, like, because how do you have this problem in all kinds of sectors of the country when you have Democrats involved with running an election? There just seems to be problems, and then they want to come back and blame Russia, which I've heard.
I saw that.
Heard that they blame Russia. I mean, like, you can't really blame the Republicans. Like, we don't care. Like, our hands are off of this. Like, that is your problem. That is your mess. And all I want to do is just stick my finger in that wound because because it's bad. Like, it's really bad. And like in a lot of the other like the Democratic podcasts, the liberal media, they're kind of like they've acknowledged that it's a mess because so many of them were caught like trying to read off results, and then every time they try and read off the results, like they weren't ready again. And so it's a whole mess for the liberal media, but like our side of things, like I just like sitting back and like making sure that we rub salt in this wound.
So I was at a party on Saturday for the night parade, and I'm sitting in a room with a bunch of Bloomberg, Buttigieg, and Warren and Biden people, and they're all arguing around a conference room, and I'm sitting in the corner drinking and eating literal popcorn, and I'm enjoying this whole time. Like, I don't know what else. This is nirvana, honestly.
So let me add that a local wonderful business, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, has an app that functions correctly, and they have a lot less people involved than the DNC.
Oh my! But did you see the videos coming out? Like, these old, like 82-year-old women have their phones out and are trying to work an app that was sent to them like a day before.
And this is what
that
happens.
Wasn't the worst part.
And like I see this all the time in the tech world, is that people like to be like, oh, well, we created an app that's going to simplify this thing, and it never simplifies the thing. Like, you don't need a separate app to do it. Like, you can accomplish the exact same thing with like a Facebook poll or like a Survey Monkey. Like, you know what I mean? Like, something that you can just put up on a website. Like, you don't need. The problem is that they go and they get these big investors. They have these Silicon Valley backing, and then like they need millions and millions of dollars to develop an app to count.
People made bank.
Like,
people cash checks. That weren't supposed should never have cast checks.
Oh yeah.
If there were a device developed in the Byzantine era, it'd be like some wooden beads on
An abacus, is that what you want? Is that what you want? You want an app just moving the beads over every time someone.
I'm fairly impressed with you right now.
Well, I know a lot of the references. I just think that sometimes the Byzantine election goes over people's heads.
I think
people can let me know in the comments if I'm crazy.
Exactly what happened in Iowa. I love it.
Now, do you think there's any merit though to the fact that Pete Buttigieg had some money invested in this application? He was apparently the largest donor among the candidates to this shadow company.
And it was developed by Hillary staffer as well.
No, he's not making fun of the company being like shadow. That's literally the name of the company.
Right.
I don't like to I don't want to sit up here and make conspiracy theories.
No.
I think that you can just look at all the pieces, right? Like the DNC is kind of inept too at the same time, right? You've seen this. I mean, like, they are calling for the head of the Iowa party's, resignation, basically.
On a pike?
Yeah, I mean, like, Byzantine type, stuff. They want to like this guy.
Consequences.
But that's really what's happening, though, is that you've got a head of the party, and some of them are really poorly run. I mean, like, at the state level or at the local level, it's very possible that there is just ineptitude.
And they were so confident. They were so confident the day before on CNBC, on network news. Like, oh no, we got this. We know how to work this.
I've
been
like, tested over 2 times.
By myself in the class. Like,
it makes me feel like they didn't run a test purchase on through the app.
Why would you? Democrats told you it was going to work. I would trust a Democrat when it came to a website being rolled out and seeing what happens after you spend $1 billion on something.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I guess like we can move past the app and talk about, I guess, the fallout, though, because what I think is important to note from Iowa is the fallout, because even if it's illegitimate results, you have Mayor Pete and you have Bernie, who are the front runners, both claiming victory. Neither one got to do like a stump speech, though, right?
No.
Afterwards,
The media booth was not there,
and it wasn't. Yeah,
it was there for Amy Klobuchar.
Well, she ran to the mic first.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. She ran to the mic first. So what's happening? I think what's happening now, and we're going to see this in Iowa. We're going to see this in New Hampshire when it comes to, because I think the primaries are today. Oh God, we don't even know. I think the New Hampshire primaries are today, and so what's probably going to happen is you're seeing the deflation of Warren, you're seeing the deflation of Joe Biden, and where are those votes going? And so they're going to who would be the next best person besides those candidates.
It's really hard to try and figure out where those votes are going to go from or to, like, because if Joe Biden, like in the Iowa caucus, does not get his 15% and you have to go to your second choice, it's not exactly who you think it would be from a Democrat side.
Correct.
Like some of them might be like, well, I'm voting for Klobuchar because I think she's the closest in policy, or they could be voting, to Warren or something because, like, oh, well, she's another woman, Klobuchar's not in it anymore. I mean, like, the logic doesn't have to be there. And like you said, they're standing in the sides of rooms of gymnasiums.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of logic going on to, like, the depth of the policy. They're looking at their friends and being like, well, Betty went over to, to Joe Biden, like, left Joe Biden's and then he went home. You know what I mean?
I will never follow wherever Karen is going to vote. That's never going to be a thing.
She has great macaroons.
And I don't know. I don't remember exactly who the candidate was. And I want to say it wasn't I think it started with a B. Bennett, was there Bennett? Anyways, but it was the saddest picture because it's literally a sign of the candidate and then one guy sitting in a chair all by himself.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Well,
It's
that's
beautiful.
what Yang, I know, fired half his staff after this weekend. He basically just, laid a giant egg, for lack of a
Well, because people thought he had
not having an FCC violation.
Well, they
of
thought
that,
they thought he had momentum going into Iowa, and people were saying that he had some momentum, but again, this is such a convoluted process that I wouldn't make any campaign decisions based on these caucuses.
Yeah, it speaks to having a good ground game as a campaign. That's what you need. If you're going to literally rally people to sides of gyms in different places in the middle of Iowa, your messaging's not going to matter. Your Facebook isn't going to matter. All of this policy isn't going to matter. It's literally getting people out there and literally getting 15 people in a precinct possibly and bringing them over to your side. That's what we're basing entire national standings on.
And that's why I love the idea of the caucuses. I think it's such a unique way of watching the process happen, and it's never had this kind of scrutiny before. Yeah. So I really don't want them to take it away because I think it's
had the scrutiny, but it hasn't had the complications.
It's had complications before. We had huge complications last time.
Well, that's right. It was on our side.
And so it's not like no, it would happen last time with the Democrats as well, where Bernie Sanders wasn't set. Bernie Sanders and Rick Santorum were not classified as the winners of the Iowa caucus until a week or 14 days later. So it was crazy. So that's so that was the first one. Tonight's is a primary. It's one vote. It's not that difficult. I think at the end of the day, I want to know where Biden is going to land. If Biden lands in 4th and 5th, I don't see how on earth you're going to have a campaign that you're going to roll into Arizona and say, I'm the most electable person here when you're getting 3% of the vote.
His entire campaign is basically coming to a halt because his whole thing is I'm electable, and then Iowa's you're not really electable.
Yeah, you weren't even the second or third vote for a lot of people, and that's what you saw the breakdown. And you're right, Iowa's you having campaign people there for months beforehand and build the groundwork, which he didn't do, and you saw that.
Yeah, I think that one point that I heard is that he basically has pretended he's the front runner, trying not to screw up, basically playing not to lose, and that's what he's been doing for the past few months, up to a year or so, just playing not to lose, thinking, okay, I was Obama's VP, I can just run into this, and not, as long as I don't screw it up, I'll get the nomination. But at this point, when you come in 4th, and then if he comes in 4th again, which is kind of looking like where he's going to end up in New Hampshire, he's going to have to come out and basically start throwing bows, which is what he kind of started doing. Now he's coming out aggressive and swinging, and I can't wait to see him try and take down the rest of the candidates.
With the wrong people. If you guys haven't seen, I don't know if you know this clip from me, Johnny.
All right, we're going to go to that one.
We are updating the way we communicate with you guys with these videos.
I'm telling you, we're working on making this show just a little bit better every single time.
We change cameras.
So we play clips. We play clips for people now.
All right. So let's go ahead and do you want to set this up, Chris, since you brought the clip?
So who did their homework this week?
Yeah. So Joe Biden. Making the wrong people look bad. One of his devout followers wanted to ask him a hardball question to see, what they can do about improving the campaign. And this is Joe's response.
Number one, I was a Democratic caucus.
Is there sound or
we won't
not hear it? Okay.
No, you haven't.
We talked.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but you're now you got to be honest.
And look on that woman's face when that was finished. You didn't get to see it, but she was looked like Jesus just smacked her in the face. It was really bad.
I feel really bad for Joe Biden on this, actually, because I've watched the clip and I don't think he was being mean at all. I feel like he's actually getting unfairly scrutinized because the joke went over pretty well. That girl might have been. It did, but when you pull out the headline and you say he insulted his follower, then that's when it starts to become a big deal, and you're like, wait, what did Joe Biden do? But then you watch the clip for yourself and you're kind of I don't know. The room kind of seemed like it was working, and it looked like the joke landed.
What?
It might have been like a lighthearted saying.
What
in
the
1940s.
media is
It only landed if you were like over 70. I mean, it was a John Wayne reference.
That's like
that
an Anibal reference.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh no, I caught it immediately. Actually, I've seen a lot of those westerns. I knew exactly what he was talking
of
about.
course you
I
did.
have no idea what he's talking about, like most things. And then that's the whole point, is that, again, like, yes, he's old. That's what you should take from it. Like, not that he is insulting. I mean, again, like, this is somebody that's trying to relate to the American people. Like, he's not going to get that young vote.
Well, you have to understand, I have been 82 years old for my entire life. And so the moment he said the reference, I understand Joe Biden almost every single day. Every time he talks, I don't think it translates for anyone under the age of 65, but I understand it. I'm not going to vote for him either. So I don't know why he's campaigning towards my vote. So I'm happy.
Honestly, like people like Obama, he was very well spoken. He didn't say things like that. He was very with the current language. He was able to communicate with everybody of all age brackets. Joe Biden
And Trump
doesn't have
communicates
good
with
speech
everybody
handlers.
at every level, because he speaks at like a third or fourth grade.
From infants.
Like just
the
small
deathbed.
words in 140 characters, and it works. Like you have to make you have to scale down your language. Like I mean, like we have like if you look at like charts of like how educated our presidents have spoke, like from like a reading level from the time of like 1900 until now, like you needed to be more and more like they were speaking with like big words for years and years, and then like as TV started to get introduced, and then like now internet and social media, the words have become smaller and smaller, and then like again condensed down into 140 characters.
Yeah, because people make fun of other people when they use big words like Byzantine.
Not the word, your entire phrase. It didn't make any sense.
It makes
I'm done
sense.
with that.
Okay.
All right. My goodness. Well, again, so the Democratic primary, again, getting a big old shuffle after the Iowa caucuses. And does anybody want to change their predictions for the nomination yet?
And I think that this becomes less relevant as a step of the process for them.
Well, I mean, a good point was saying, hey, well, why not? Obviously, these are mostly Florida reporters and Florida people talking, but that they should make Florida the first state to vote.
No. We don't need that kind of scrutiny. We still can't deal. We still haven't outlived the Chad situation. I don't want people like roaming around like, I don't know, Podunk, like Polk County, or getting eaten like New York.
Shots fired at Polk County,
No.
which is something we do here sometimes. And,
Like, could you imagine how much bad press we're gonna get when like reporters from New York are like trying to cross I-4 or like the Alligator Alley, and like it's gonna get bad.
Realistically, our state is as perfectly mirrors the entire rest of the country from like a demographic
and that's
standpoint.
the larger
so it
point.
makes
That's true.
sense to do it here first. Now obviously like we're Florida and we're like, yeah, come like pay all the attention to us, we're the most important and everything, but every other state wants it, and if Iowa wants it as like the first one, give it to Iowa.
Let Iowa
But
do
this
it.
is
They
what
have corn.
They have nothing
need the
else.
business.
They have corn.
Well,
They
that's
have
true. That's
ethanol.
true. They do have nothing
Have
else.
I told you this
mean,
before? I don't know if I've told this story on
now
this
that we pissed
podcast.
off all the Iowans.
I'm not sure if I've taught. No, we're joking, but like I was spending a weekend a few months ago with a friend that had flown down from Iowa, and he was watching. He had to watch, like literally had to pull up his laptop and watch the Iowa versus Iowa State Wrestling Championship,
gosh.
and that is
Oh, my
really
God.
important.
To them.
Look,
to
this is
them.
Iowa, okay?
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to explain to you guys.
They don't have
And-
much to live for. They have sports.
And that sport in particular is extremely important to people from Iowa, right? And during that wrestling match between Iowa and Iowa State, I swear to you, the sponsor ad was for corn. And it was literally a 30-second ad about the importance of corn in Iowa. And I was like, mind blown. I was like, I thought we just make jokes about this stuff. Like, it is for real. They run commercials during their wrestling matches. And
Oh
like,
my
I mean, if you're
gosh.
from Iowa, you probably can back me up on this, but like, that's my experience.
I
And
loved it because
let them have a primary.
They're going through all the big cities in Iowa. I don't recognize any of them, and I'm like,
Yeah.
these are big cities.
Des Moines is
And I'm
huge.
willing to bet that Iowans are probably eating their fair share of corn.
They
it's you know,
hey.
not a lot of arm twisting there for the corn eaters in Iowa. I mean, like here with the oranges, right? I mean, you know, it's like, do you have to tell Floridians to drink orange juice? I don't know. No, you gonna leave me hanging on that one?
That's all you,
You don't gotta
Johnny.
tell me
No,
twice.
we're not. No saying.
Actually, we're bringing it back
No
to the
saving.
rest stops. The
Anyway.
first rest stop in Florida is getting orange juice again.
Oh, that's right. They're going to
Hasn't
start
been
doing the
around for a
welcome
while.
centers,
Oh,
right?
so we have that kind of money now to be like
Got that orange money.
We got
Good
orange
economy.
juice money.
We have orange juice money.
There's still potholes on Nebraska. We're gonna need to figure this out.
No joke, though. I mean, have you seen what a gallon of OJ goes for? It's like
No, I don't know what's going on in shopping centers.
So to bring it back to the
Shopping.
predictions on the
Yeah, bring it back for us,
on
Chris,
the
please.
primary.
Milk? Is
I'm
it like
still thinking
banana
that
$5? I have no idea what these things are happening.
I'm still thinking that Biden's taking the lead. They're not going to
Yeah.
let Bernie Sanders have it. They're going to find some other way to rig it to get him out, and then Buttigieg will be third.
Do you
I would
think-
agree with you only if Bernie wasn't falling so far behind. I mean, again, a lot of these polls.
You mean Biden?
Biden?
Sorry, Biden
Yeah.
wasn't falling so far behind in these polls. I mean, there's some polls, and I'll pull them up here. I mean, again, there was. I'll pull them up here in a second, but he's falling in a lot of state polling. He's fallen down to third, fourth, and sometimes even fifth place.
And
Yeah.
that's what needed to happen. When it came to the Biden campaign, there was no substance whatsoever. You're watching your grandfather. You're giving, okay, let's watch grandpa like make a fool of himself. That's what we're watching right now. And don't get me wrong, I love the idea of Biden 20 years ago. That would have been phenomenal. But now you're just watching a shadow, wink, wink, of his former glory. And it's like, it's just sad to watch. So that's why I think, if anything, right now, I think it's going to be for New Hampshire, Bernie, Buttigieg, maybe Klobuchar, because she is really excited.
She's actually started to come up a little bit.
Yeah,
and I think that she would take Biden
because
voters
she's
too.
getting Biden voters, she's getting Warren voters, and that's what's happening there. And then, if anything, Warren might be in fourth. Biden is definitely going to be fourth or fifth.
I'm not flip flopping on my answer. I will keep. I am sticking hard to Warren's going to win this primary. I don't really know where the lane's coming from at this point, but
Where do you see that
I'm not
Warren?
flip. I am staying strong on this position from 6 months ago.
I need
I don't think that's what you said last week.
of New Hampshire.
No,
or the whole thing?
no, not New Hampshire. The whole thing.
You think Warren is gonna? I don't think Warren is
I think
gonna.
I'll back him up on that.
No.
I think
Johnny.
Buttigieg is going to make a run here. It's going to make it real interesting
Warren-
down the home stretch, but that's going to only bring Biden down.
If Warren is not-
and again, they're not going to give it to Bernie. I don't think they give it to Bernie. I think
I'm sorry. If Warren is still in the race at Super Tuesday, I will be impressed. I think she will bow
I would
out.
put a bet on that.
I will.
What do we bet on this show?
Let me think about it. Let's talk about it.
All right, let's talk about that after.
Let's talk
dinner,
about it.
the dinner tab.
Dinner tab after the show.
Tab, yes.
I will do a dinner tab bet with you that Warren is absolutely in the running on Super Tuesday. Are you willing to take that?
I don't think she gets any states Super Tuesday.
That's not what I said.
Oh, that's what I'm
She's
saying.
still her campaign is. You said her
you gotta at least agree on the
So
premise.
do you think that
Her
you think her campaign will still be running come Super Tuesday?
Yes, absolutely.
When is Super Tuesday? Does anyone know? Someone answers.
Tuesday.
It is on Tuesday.
No, if it's Democrats, it's like a Monday night.
It's like a month or two from now.
Okay, we'll talk about it. I to the premise, I say yes.
I want everyone to take
To the
the second
premise,
now
I
to
say
acknowledge
yes.
that I have asked Anibal to back up his opinions with fact and
With
actually put
facts,
money on
we're
the
talking
line.
about something happening like a month or two from now.
And he will not do it. I just
I-
want to make that point, and we can keep going now.
All right, so a little
so
a little
crazy, so
curveball
crazy.
actually, because a friend of mine is watching, and she just kind of reminded me on a development that we've seen today. Libertarian Gary Johnson, former Libertarian candidate,
Gary.
presidential candidate Gary Johnson, actually came out and said that he would do whatever he needed to do to help out Tulsi Gabbard. Do you think there's a third party candidate
No.
plot in the making?
No.
I think that's
No.
someone looking for a date. I think that's what it is. Honestly,
I think that's probably the best
You
explanation.
don't think Gabbard goes third party? I
no,
think she
No.
does.
I don't think she goes to third party. No,
It's been proven
No.
ineffective so many times.
She doesn't have the money by herself to be third party like a pro.
Well, she did endorse Sanders last time.
Yeah, I just don't see that happening.
No,
I think
I
that's
don't
one of
either.
those like
But that's
scare
weird, though,
tactics.
isn't it? I mean, why would Gary Johnson come out and
Because Gary Johnson's name hasn't been mentioned
Oh,
in
I'm
4
sorry.
years.
We're doing exactly what he wants us to do is talk about him. Thanks, Johnny.
Wow. I mean, again, but
Gary's
again,
not even a
I
real
think,
libertarian.
but I think it's interesting. Again, given Gabbard right now, I mean, she's not well liked. I mean, they did a straw poll at an event down in Manatee County, and with about 100 like hardcore Democrat activists and elected officials down there, and Gabbard didn't even get a single point.
No,
There are
and-
Democrats in Manatee County.
There is, but
Dude,
that's
there's 100 of them.
Well, that's the thing, though, is that she isn't doing well with any of the Democratic base. I mean, like, they hate her. We think that she has some reasonable points, but the Democratic primary voters are not going to see it that way. So she's got no chance.
But she's running the same lane as like Andrew Yang. Like he's like they have ideas that a lot of us could either agree with or like let's tweak it a little bit and fix it. But they don't want that at all.
She's suing Hillary too, so there's that.
And her blow, but Hillary still great. So I don't know. Do we have much more to talk about Democrats?
Because,
Again, after we're done talking about the Democratic primary on our show, right afterwards, we can all look at each other and go, Trump won this weekend.
Oh
he won the weekend.
Yeah.
Like,
He won the week. The whole week.
The whole last 2 weeks, the whole couple of years. But like honestly, I mean, like you look at this complete debacle in Iowa, it looks like the DNC is completely inept, which they kind of are. And then at the State of the Union, I mean, he won that times a million, which is our next topic, right?
Yes. Well, the State of the Union.
Now it is.
Should we go by day as to exactly how we won?
I mean,
well, hold on. Well, I mean, that was kind of the premise initially with the kind of the order of things here. So, again, just to bring it back up and give everybody a refresh and a reset here on tonight's conversation, we're going to go into the State of the Union. We've got our comments open. I'm watching them right now. We'd love to hear what you think about the State of the Union. Of course, lots to pick apart there, including some things that happened towards the end. But all in all, as much as Democrats tried to build some crazy narrative about it being inappropriate and being disrespectful, I honestly think it was one of the better or best State of the Union addresses I've seen in a long time. When you talk about the pageantry, right, and the kind of, the stories that you tell, and, you're basically building the narrative of what's been going on since the last State of the Union. I mean, what do you guys think?
So the way I think he introduced it was, and usually people only tune in for like the first 10, 20 minutes of the State of the Union, and this is just people like us that rent a room and watch with a big like watch party, which you did a great job, by the way.
We hosted
Chris.
a watch party at the local on Henderson in Tampa here. We had a great time. We actually had South Tampa Republicans and the TBYR there, so there was a bunch of people, all age groups. At the end, there was barely a dry eye, but we'll get into that later.
Yeah. But I will have to say that the first 10, 20 minutes was him just talking about the accomplishments of the economy, of the Americans, of how the country is doing much better.
And he stuck to the script that was written for him, and it was magnificent because it just highlighted all of the good that's happened over the past 4 years, and it made an incredible case for him to get reelected.
Yeah.
And then now you have Democrats looking really, really stupid trying to say their argument now has to be that like he's either such a bad guy, it doesn't matter that the economy is so good, or the economy's not really that good, which is kind of the argument they're making. And if you listened to the rebuttal, I thought the rebuttal was just awful.
It's petty.
Not just petty, but it was like just they were like, okay, there's all of these good things happening, but they're really not that good. Like, we could actually do better, and he's lying to you and everything. And like, to me, like that's a really, really weak argument, And I just saw it. It was a terrible day for Democrats if you're looking to like get reelected. And I think that the panic has set over the liberal media after that, because you've seen the urgency in the articles and all of those different things. And I mean, obviously, all of the focus was on the paper ripping afterwards and the lack of the handshake and all that.
We'll get to that. Don't get ahead of us.
Oh, I didn't know. I thought that we were on the same topic, but but that's
that was a whole event in itself.
It is. It is a whole other event in itself. And again, if you look at the actual State of the Union, though, and you look at the meat of his speech, it is full of good stories. It's full of great numbers for jobs and again minority jobs, for women's jobs. All of those different things.
It should have made everyone feel good.
It should have made everyone feel good. And this is why the Democrats looked so bad that night, because it made you look at them and go, why are they not standing and clapping during good things?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it took American unemployment at the lowest point in history.
Yeah, like you shouldn't be upset that the person you dislike is saying it. It's still happening. And when you don't stand up for like some of the things. Like you're supposed to stay seated for the stuff you disagree with, right? Like if maybe he's talking about healthcare or something like that, and you stay seated, right? And you're like, he's not doing it
But
right.
if you can't even stand up for the things that we can all agree
exactly,
with,
and so you look bad, and that's why they had such a bad weekend, and Trump had such a good weekend, is because they look petty. I mean, you had what's her faces like playing on their phones, not paying attention, walking out, not attending, and you look like children when you do that. Like, and it's like have a little bit of respect for the president and the State of the Union and the process, and then like again, disagree with what you disagree with, but like you look petty not doing anything.
And then you make reports that you were getting triggered because of the speech, and then people get upset at you. Like, what are you getting triggered by?
Yeah,
You're literally making it about you.
The heroic person that he brought up, like the children that he was, the heroes of the soldiers and stuff. I mean, who are you so upset about?
I cried multiple times.
Well, and I think also the public has come to look at the State of the Union as an opportunity to be optimistic about the direction of the country, something to be proud of, right? And so they're not, because again, regardless of how bad things may be in, let's say, in previous administrations, they've always spun the speech, to look towards the things that are hopeful, right? The things that are going right. And so I think people have grown accustomed to look towards the State of the Union as saying, hey, we've got our problems, but things are going in the right direction, and things are actually pretty good.
Even Obama's,
and for things to be as great as they are right now, and the Democrats to just sit there on their hands, I think was a huge, smack in the face to the public.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, even Obama's speeches, like a lot of times you would listen through them and you'd be like, things are good. Like they're still like, again, because the speech writing is so good during this stuff, and like if they don't vary away from it, it does. It makes you feel good as an American. It makes you feel good about the country, and it highlights all of the good things that are going on and kind of skates over the stuff that's not going so well. That's what the State of the Union is for. And again, that's what Trump did, and that's why it was such a powerful speech.
What jumped out to you, Chris? I mean, again, you graciously hosted the party, the watch party, and and you're continuing to get more and more involved in not only in the Young Republicans but on this program, and so again, kind of having a fresh set of eyes. What stood out to you?
So as far as when it comes down to the critique on the economy, it's falling flat in the ears of the American people.
Yeah, of course.
No one's out there like, yeah, my life sucks right now, as opposed to 2008. No one's like, oh, my wages really are less. The Bureau of Labor Statistics don't lie. They're out there. Even if you don't agree that Trump made it accelerate the way it is,
yeah, or it isn't.
It's at least plausible to say it's not as good as it could be, but it is entirely implausible to say that
the economy is terrible. Like, we need to change it. We need and then Bernie's message is we need a revolution. I mean, like when you look around America right now, you're like, we don't need a revolution. Like we can fix some things, but we don't need a revolution.
And I think that's where people don't understand the reason why we are so
Republican.
Not even just Republican. Like I can work with a lot of Democrats. There are a lot of Democrats that I can work with.
Yeah.
We can find an issue. We can figure out what two sides we're arguing about and then find a solution. With many people that are considered Democrats socialists, I don't see a possibility of us even figuring it out when we're not even in the same building.
Yeah.
How to start something. You want to completely change the economy. You want to completely change healthcare. You want to completely destroy what this country has built on over 300 years. And I look at you, I'm like, I can't work with you. There's no way we're going to agree on anything. Absolutely no way.
Well, especially when you're sitting there and ripping up speeches in the middle of disagreeing with somebody when there's nothing bad in the speech.
I don't know why anyone would rip up speeches and just make things so dramatic.
It's very dramatic, and I'm going to be ripping up speeches throughout this rest of this episode as Anibal has bad points or something like that. If I disagree with them, that's what I'll be doing. But no, it's very petty. It's very, very petty, and it's like, again, like I don't even necessarily blame her for like planning on that because
Which
of like,
she did.
Which, of course she pre-ripped. If you guys didn't notice, this camera too was pre-ripped because we didn't want to mess it up at first. So
literally everyone has the pre-ripped.
So we have the
papers.
pre-ripped. So she knew. So
I'm saving mine.
So without really knowing what was going to happen in the speech, because obviously some of it was a surprise, right? Like doing it, the Medal of Honor with Rush Limbaugh, like that wasn't something that they all knew was going to happen ahead of time. So you're planning on ripping a speech before you get the actual meat of the speech, and then you look really dumb when you rip up, like, again, like wounded warriors and
Yeah.
and
I'm pretty
Tuskegee
sure the
Airmen and all that
pre-ripping
stuff.
started happening as she was like, Soleimani's dead, and she was like, oh, that's super offensive.
But that's
Yeah.
the thing is, she pre-planned this. So right there, she did it on purpose.
Of course.
But then two, the optics, the Democrats are not. She's like, I'm gonna have a point when I rip it up, and people are gonna be talking about me. Now people are like, well, you're dishonoring the people that he talked
Yeah.
about. Even if you do not agree with President Trump, you at least have to give props and honor for the people that he was talking about and that have sacrificed their lives. And that's the time that everyone stands.
You would think so. You would really think that like everyone would stand, and that's why. And again, like when the reaction that got me the most after it was, and I don't know if anyone else would have saw this, but like C-SPAN, the least biased network out there that literally just like films the most boring like meetings in the world.
I fall asleep to that.
Of course.
At night. It's a great.
And so they had people calling in with reactions. So it was very real, very raw, unedited reactions. And you had these Democrats calling in saying things like, I voted Democrat my entire life. Like, what are they doing out there right now? Like, they make me look bad. Like, they were like, why are they upset about what's going on in this speech? And like, it was just Democrat after Democrat calling in and saying like how mad they were that was the people who were representing them. They just, again, they look like petty children, and it didn't go well, and it didn't go well amongst their base either.
And I'm going to steal a little bit of Chris's thunder here, because I think one of the most brilliant things to come out of this State of the Union speech and Pelosi ripping the speech is this ad that the RNC has put out, basically showing it's like, oh, the Tuskegee Airmen, and then she rips the speech. Oh, it's a soldier comes home from war, rips up the speech. Oh, the economy is strong in minority communities, rips up the speech. I think that may be one of the best commercials, maybe after Trump's Super Bowl ad, that we're going to see this cycle.
So as far as like optics for us as Republicans, I think there was a lot of really good points made in a very, very strong way. The disagreements we've had that have been like things that shouldn't be disagreed upon, like Soleimani. What else?
I mean, like things like Iran, like, and like joblessness, like low unemployment. Like you should be happy about those
like
things.
The little girl getting the scholarship because she couldn't get a school voucher because of policies the Democrats put in place in her district in Pennsylvania. We rubbed their noses in their misdeeds in the best, most tactful way possible. And I think it was a really strong, really well thought out strategy behind how we did that.
I agree.
And we've never had this kind of we've always been horrible when it comes to everything. What's going on? when it comes to what happens,
Earthquake
in the media, when it comes to like posting things, when like the oldest senator from Arkansas makes a stupid comment about any social media issue. And so the fact that we're able to have someone that actually knows how to work the system.
Well, you know what made me laugh the most was that Nancy Pelosi and then Democrats and again liberals on Twitter and stuff have been calling for that ad that you're talking about to be pulled down. They are lobbying Twitter to stop them from spreading that because they think it's a misrepresentation of what happened that night. So basically, if you guys don't know what we're talking about, there's like they'll take the clip of the Tuskegee Airmen like that exact second, and then they'll show Nancy Pelosi ripping up the speech right after, and then like it was like again like another really like great moment, and then like Nancy ripping it right after again. And
you mean the ad I just described like 30 seconds ago?
Yes, I know, but I'm saying, but I don't think you did a good job describing it to like what it was. That no, just genuinely, I don't think that like I mean that's what the clip is, right? The clip is just her ripping after every moment, and they're calling for Twitter to stop running that ad. So like this is what it's a bigger conversation that we've had before on the podcast, but like social media censorship, and again,
but it also doubles down on how ridiculous they are.
Exactly,
because everybody knows that happened and that she did it, and it's not. And other than in the order that it's been edited, she did those things, and specifically regarding those items that were mentioned.
Yeah, and then because she decided that she was like it's a misrepresentation. Well, now they're not allowed to run the ad. Like no. But props to Facebook for saying, no, we can let people figure it out. Like, it's still an ad, and it's a good ad at that. And again, just because you're upset about how you're portrayed doing the thing that you're doing, like, just because it was doctored into, like, different time frames doesn't mean that you didn't do it, right? Like, they didn't, like, Photoshop you ripping a speech when you weren't ripping a speech. Like, you ripped the speech. Like, so, like, I just don't, it makes me mad, like, when I see people calling for social media censorship, like, in ads for the election, when it's totally fair game.
All I can say is this: thus protests too much, Nancy Pelosi, and because of that, we all realize how quickly of just the crap that you're trying to sell us
Johnny
when it
shaking
goes
his
to that. It's true. The more they protest, and again, you're yelling at your 15-year-old nephew to stop doing things on the internet. What happens when you tell the internet not to do something? It does it 1,000 times better. And we're going to keep on getting the best memes from the last week of the Democrats like pooping a goose egg, basically.
It was nice to see real world faces paired with our policies and how we do things as Republicans, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. There you go.
What was that? I didn't even get.
It was nice to see Republicans, or our policies, have our policies matched to faces, like the soldiers, the little girl, etc.
Right.
He was distracted by Anibal's pooping a goose egg or whatever he said at the end there.
Really threw me for a loop.
Missed that.
No, but that's what I was saying at the open. That's what I was saying at the open of the topic, which was, because all of this takes weeks and probably months of planning. And I thought from a process standpoint, from a storytelling standpoint, to what you just said, Chris, I think the examples of the successes, right? You got to tell that story. I think the way they did it, the people they invited, the order they did it in, I thought it all was done brilliantly. And that's why it roiled them so much, because they had to sit there for 90 minutes and take it. And they couldn't fight it. And they realized that they didn't have the talking points to combat any of what the president had just said.
So we had been arguing with this point about how to express the reasoning for the killing of Soleimani. Like, that was something that a lot of Republicans weren't able to really verbally explain, because it is a big deal, but at the same time we needed justification. And what does he do? Doesn't even say the name Soleimani until after he does the example of the dead soldiers and the wounded warriors, and then he says, if anyone is planning to kill Americans, your life is null and void. Yeah, that was the best explanation that I thought for the killing of Soleimani. Because at the end of the day, if you're planning to attack American citizens, I expect my government to take on the responsibility to take those people out. And there's no reason. There should be no. Well, you need to explain your actions. No, you're a terrorist, and that's what I expect for the government to do, is protect American citizens.
All right.
I will say this, though. The State of the Union. What was your best line, if you remember it, from the State of the Union? I know which one was mine. Okay. Mine was the American manifest destiny into the stars. I love that. I thought it was great.
I thought I cringed, and then
you thought about it a little bit.
Was like, okay, yeah, we're taking. And that's why I posted in our group the Dave Chappelle, like, of him. There's a skit of him
Mars bitches
of doing. Yeah, he's standing up there as George Bush, like Black Bush, and he's up there and he's like, "We're going to Mars." He's like, MARS, Mars bitches. Like, that's where we're going right now. And that's like, he basically went out there, and like that's why I was laughing so hard during the speech, is that like that's what he was doing, like with the manifest destiny to Mars. Like, I was dying, because like it's funny, but at the same time, like, actually Space Force, for all the jokes that it gets, is actually a really good initiative. Like, I think it's a good initiative.
So this is why you and me are completely opposite. That's what you post. I post the American Progress by John Gates 1872 picture of literally Mrs. like Manifest Destiny crossing over.
Yeah, I know what you posted. It's not nearly as fun as the Dave Chappelle
skit. It's not,
skit.
but it's history and it makes sense. And
well, but that's a history that comes with some baggage.
Well,
right?
we're not gonna kill like space Indians or something.
You
like that.
wait until we get to Mars.
You don't know that yet.
You don't know that yet.
Well, and to Jake's point, people were criticizing the logo. People were criticizing the logo because it looks like the Star Trek logo, and it's like NASA has been ripping off Star Trek for years.
No, that's not true.
That is
true. If you've done your research ahead of time, you would have known that the Navy and the Air Force have patented that logo since 1924.
Well, the point is that Space Force should be taken seriously.
I think
that's okay.
All right.
But I think it's okay.
Fine.
But I do think it's okay that they ripped off Star Trek or whatever.
They didn't rip off Star Trek.
Who cares if they ripped off Star Trek?
Even if
it's
they
ours.
did.
But it's American.
It's not. I'm not arguing if it's good or not.
I mean, we were naming our space shuttles after Star Trek things.
What, the Enterprise?
Yeah.
So when was the first time we named a vessel the Enterprise, Johnny?
It was in the 90s, 80s.
No,
I
it
think
was
it
in the
does this to us.
1600s.
I'm not a Star Trek guy.
When we named
Oh
a
my
ship,
God.
a wooden ship, that one of them that crossed the Atlantic, we called it the Enterprise. We've been calling ships Enterprise for generations.
These are the
We should've-
weeds
we
that
should've-
we get.
I know.
No, you
moved
guys make
into.
these comments, and like someone has to be the one that tells
You
you.
just call us you guys. Like, we're lower than
He did. He referred to the rest of the.
you people.
I don't remember scheduling an Evil's Attic in this episode.
Did we have one?
No.
Okay.
you can't say things like, okay.
Should we get into Nancy Pelosi's rebuttal of the speech the next day?
Did
Just
anyone
real
watch
quickly?
it? I did.
I did.
I watched all of it. It was
What was your favorite line though?
of the State of the Union.
Yes.
Johnny is going to join the Space Force.
Yes.
Oh, I would tally sign up. I would. Sign me up. Mars,
man.
bitches.
Yeah, in so many words, that would have been my favorite.
Oh my God.
He should have ripped off.
M-A-R.
He should have ripped him off and used it in the speech. I would have been great, but
Well, Chris, before we move on to
points.
our final two topics, do you want to run this, set up this Pelosi clip?
Okay, so for those of you that watch an inordinate amount of news, you will have seen this already, but if you're not like me, you haven't. So Nancy Pelosi delivered her weekly State of the Union speech the day after the State of the Union, and she was not too happy about the content. She called it a manifest of mistruths, a manifest of lies.
Other people use that word.
it's a different kind of way of using it. But yeah,
Manifest.
Go ahead,
of
Chris.
mistruths.
She doesn't know what the word means.
She wasn't super happy, and if you are aware of Nancy Pelosi, she's not the most concise of speakers, as I have been for the last few minutes. But
It's a rough crowd.
it is a rough crowd. So go ahead and roll the clip one of Nancy Pelosi calling Trump sounding sedated.
Next, he talked about another issue of concern to America's working families, the 220 budget that he submitted, $2 trillion worth decreased in Medicare and Medicaid. And during his presidency, more than, and that is far more prorated in terms of years than what this president has created. A momentum, a path of $14 million is not a mess.
So in that clip, you see Nancy Pelosi slurring, forgetting what she's talking about, switching subjects in the middle of a word. This is all precluded by actually clip one, if you want to go with the other Pelosi clip. Right after she finishes saying that Donald Trump looked sedated in this State of the Union and last year's State of the Union.
Oh, I don't think I have that one.
So, I mean, the point is that you're trying to make that, like, she's saying Donald Trump looks sedated or is, like, bad at speaking or something like that. It's like while she's fumbling all over an address.
I don't see any evidence in the State of the Union to support that. Like,
Yeah,
he sounded
I didn't really
concise.
either.
He sounded with it.
Democrats needing evidence to
back up the claims,
their claims. I'm sorry, we've been dealing with this for 3 years. Also, you can tell when she's missed her Botox sessions. Okay, let's all just be honest with this.
Oh, here, hold on. I did find it.
Yes.
No, I want to play it for him.
Yeah, Chris is the only one that does that kind of homework.
That was Exhibit B, so this is Exhibit A now.
Yeah, right. Hang on a second.
So, yeah, it was really funny to see someone called out on their own faults, in the middle of their...
Okay, so this is her. This is the clip of her saying that Trump looks sedated. Right.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Here we go.
As one eye rolls to the back of her head.
All right, that was really short.
All right. Well, so I think
We'll work on this whole clip thing.
I think that guys, technical difficulties. Again, shows getting better and better every week. We're trying to add in clips. Any producers that want to come in?
We're trying
and
to
step
hire
in,
a producer.
We're hiring.
It's been a long
It's
time.
mostly volunteer hours, but
You can look on ZipRecruiter.
Speaking of
Zipper,
which,
yes. That's great.
today's show brought to you by.
ZipRecruiter.
Yeah.
Oh,
but
wait, we
speaking
ripped-
of which, if you
we
would like
ripped
to
up our
support the
papers.
show, please make sure to visit our page on Patreon. We'll have some packages on there soon for those of you who wish to contribute. But for those of you who want to do it out of the kindness of your heart, you can still go ahead and donate now at patreon.com/theyardsign.
Awesome. All right, that's our only clip. We don't have any real sponsors.
No. That's our sponsor mention for the day. All right. So let's see. Let's pull that and go back over here, pulling up our list of topics for today. Now we're going to go ahead and start getting down to the state of Florida. Two big news items that happened over the weekend. One of which is one that, again, it's slightly terrifying if you don't live in Portland, Oregon, where this is kind of like a daily occurrence. But a group of Republican Party of Florida volunteers, Republican volunteers doing voter registration and sign waving and all that stuff in Jacksonville was nearly run over by some lunatic with a van over in the Jacksonville area, a very red part of the state. Are we going to see more of this type of behavior?
I mean, if you had to ask me, it's actually funny you said Portland. I mean, like that's kind of where everybody's like expecting something like this to happen, like a little civil war in Portland, maybe there. But around the rest of the country, like it's really unfortunate to see stuff like that. I mean, how many volunteers for both Republican and Democrats do we all know that have either helped support a campaign or help register people to vote? And again, if they're at a tent, they're registering anyone to vote. By the way, too, they're not even just registering Republicans. It doesn't work that way. So again, I hope that he's as prosecuted as he possibly can be for this crime. And again, unfortunately, I don't think this is like the last time we're going to see something like this, because it's politics and people get really charged up unnecessarily. I mean, like we're really mad, but none of us are going to drive a car. I think we're all pretty stable into anything. So that's kind of like where we're at right now in politics. I mean, but again, I don't think this is something new. It doesn't only happen in America either. This kind of stuff happens all over the place. The fact that we just went through an impeachment of the president, and maybe this is the worst thing that's really happened from like a violent standpoint, should show you how strong our institutions are, really, to be honest. I mean, like, if this kind of stuff happens in another country, there's riots in the streets and there's protests and there's, like, cocktails, or Molotov cocktails being, like, thrown through windows and stuff like that. But, like, this is bad, this is unfortunate, but, crazy people out there.
Well, not to discredit what you said, but the thing is, even this week we also saw a video of, and he was just yelling things and just kind of acting out, but we saw this kid, I think it was Arizona State University, where the kid was basically threatening to cut not only the president's throat, but all these kind of college Republicans that were out there doing tabling. I think we are going to see, much like we did, almost 4 years ago, we're going to see violence break out, unfortunately, in some of the more predictable places. But one of the things that I think what blows me away constantly is the videos that come out of
52 seconds, minute 55, 27.
Keep it together, Jonathan
Oh
Torres.
my God!
This is why we can't have nice things or sponsors when it comes to this place. We're only gonna have like Barstool and like Chubby's are the only companies
Barstool
that are
take
going
us,
to be sponsoring.
please take us, Barstool.
So I think
what's sad?
I think Jonathan is correct.
What's sad is that I've been to Portland and it's beautiful, and I never expected what's happening there on a regular basis to be happening. But Antifa basically runs Portland, and they get away with whatever they want. And then meanwhile, if Republicans even so much as show up at a Capitol building, the media and Democrats want to make a big deal out of it. Meanwhile, Antifa is actually harassing, robbing, assaulting journalists and conservatives and Republicans. And again,
we know that there's a double standard, right? I mean, like, people, again, like you said, like all it takes is a Republican group to like go somewhere, and then people all of a sudden are like, oh my God, look how violent they are, look at what they're gonna do, we have to be prepared, and all that kind of stuff. But then, like, the reality is you see way more violence from the left. Like, the far left that does this kind of stuff happens way more often. I mean, the rebuttal to that a lot of times is that we've got this wing of the party. I don't even want to call it a wing and give it that much, but like we've got there's a sect of a Republican Party that's like your white supremacist, your anti-Semites.
I wouldn't even put them in the Republican.
They're not necessarily.
Put them in the far right.
They are, exactly, but they're still kind of like the left has their far left. We have our far right that's over there, and again. But I don't think you see nearly as much of the violence from our side as you do on the left anymore. I mean, especially over the past, again, a year or so. I think that you have a lot more danger from the, being a Republican in a far left area than somebody far on the left in a right wing area.
I remember the run up to the 2016 election, or 2018 election. I'm sorry, and I remember the run up of how tense it got around networking events and at the office. And I remember being at a bar and talking to a group of people, and they made one conservative point, and I had to look at the guy, and I was like, are you are you Republican? And he's like, what? And like, I had like a for Trump sign in my wallet, and I had to show it for a second, and then
membership card.
Yeah, it's almost like I had a card. What I'm going to say is this: I feel that the far left. No, I won't even say that. I think the narrative that the left in the media and politicians are talking about is escalating things so much that they're calling Republicans Nazis, and they're calling Trump a racist. That now they're calling him Hitler. So what are these kids that grew up thinking that it's really true that Nazis are horrible and that you should punch a Nazi? Well, if you think every Republican is a Nazi, you're going to punch them. And so that's
I think Chris was making this point before we started. Actually,
and they don't know how to emotionally react to this. So like when our side loses, I call into sick to work the following day. I don't turn on the news, and then the following day I get up and move on. Whereas they were rioting in the streets the day that Trump got elected. And so my fear is when he gets elected again, and by the popular vote, I have no idea what's going to happen.
I mean, I got to watch the I don't know if they were riots as much as like protests that they were doing up and down Ybor the day after. I was sitting up in the second story just watching everybody below go nuts, and paid protesters mostly, but like there's still protesters out there up and down Ybor. And I think to your point, I think that you'll probably see that again. I mean that meme of the blue-haired woman that's like screaming after the election, that's probably gonna get played again.
But they were given the point that he didn't win the popular vote, so they had something to hold on to.
Yeah,
so if he does, and I think he is going to win the popular vote and the Electoral College in a complete landslide, because I think they're going to implode the Democratic base, and they're 30% of the Democrats are not going to even show up for election. I truly believe that, because Bernie Bros and that whole Bernie Sanders thing, if they screw Bernie again this cycle, it's going to implode the entire party.
They will. Minnesota will burn,
and it should.
Minnesota.
That's what they said.
Yeah.
Well, actually, to Anibal's point, we have another clip that I know Chris brought in, and speaking to Democrats calling President Trump Hitler. You want to set this one up, Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the dissonance between Republicans and Democrats is that we think that if Democrats get elected into a major office, like, all right, so bad things will happen, the economy will suck for a few years, we'll vote them out after everyone realizes that's going to happen. But when you push the narrative that everyone thinks that there's going to be a genocide or we're going to have a totalitarian dictatorship, then people start to get really concerned. People start believing this stuff when they see it nonstop. When we have mainstream commentators, we have mainstream politicians. One of the impeachment managers referred to Trump as being in a similar situation as Hitler coming to power. Go ahead and play the clip and just let them speak for themselves.
Plunging us into a great conflict with the evil empire of Nazi Germany, but America made it to the other side.
In real time, and part of it is Goebbels, the big lie.
This is what you hear from Stalin. This is what you hear from Mussolini, what you hear from Hitler, from...
So the last guy mentioned Joseph Goebbels. That was Hitler's main propaganda leader. So when you think that someone's a Nazi, it begins to condone violence. It begins to think that this kind of thing is justified. And really, the left does not... They're fighting a caricature of Republicans. They're fighting what the left mainstream media is telling them we are. They don't actually know what we believe. No one here is a racist. No one thinks that people should be deported to a concentration camp. No one here thinks that someone should be subjugated because of who they are inherently.
I totally agree, and I think that's why it's also... I'm going to do a plug here, but that's why I think it's important that people go out to the millennials in politics panels that Tiger Bay is going to be doing tomorrow night and hear young Republicans talk. I think it's important to listen to podcasts like this, so keep tuning in and listen to what we actually think, because I can go back and play every single second of any show that we've done so far, and I don't think we come anywhere close to the narrative that they're talking about. And I don't think it's, again, I don't even think it's close. And to your point, but when you call everyone on this side a Nazi, when you label the just because again it's the president, does not mean that the president, while everybody supports him, does not mean he speaks for every millions and millions of Republicans as well, and again what they actually believe. And so you're going to keep getting incidents like this happen when you keep telling, like you said, Johnny, telling all of these kids that there is this authoritarian dictator in the White House, and then look at all the millions of people that support him, they think the exact same thing, and they're going to come and they're going to deport people and they're going to go send them to concentration camps.
Yeah, but you're also talking about people that think when they see the meme of Trump saying that he's going to run for 2045 and 2082, like they truly think he's going to run forever.
They do.
And that's where we're starting at. That these people are so blinded by their hate for the Republicans, for the hate of the Republic, and for the hate of Trump that they don't see that. And then you have these people that probably have no Republican friends whatsoever. Yeah. And they only think of a Republican as an old white guy that's spewing out racist comments, but then they see Hispanic, or they see a female, or they see someone that's gay or transgender that supports the president, and they think that all hell has gone wrong. And I can tell you right now, I know a lot of gay Republicans, a lot of female Republicans, a lot of supporters of that ideology, and just because, and when did sexual orientation dictate how you voted? That's the stupidity of identity politics.
Yeah, I mean, there's reasons why I think that, you know, there was a separation on those issues for sure. But again, as young Republicans, I think that, you know, again, I think there's a lot more of a consensus on a lot of those things. But
there's going to be a generational curve, you know, that we're going to go through, and we're already going through. I mean, even with as young as a legislature as we have now, let's say in Florida, you're seeing a very different perspective on those kind of issues.
Yeah. I agree, and again, I think that again it just speaks to ignorance on the left, and it's irresponsibility by the media who keep saying things like this, right? Mm-hmm. Like they don't get in trouble. Like they're mad about a clip being put together of Nancy Pelosi ripping speeches,
doing
which
things
she did.
Yeah.
And they're not upset about the fact that they've referred to millions and millions of people as Nazis, and they do it like almost on a weekly basis, and it's totally normal now.
Anyone that voted for Trump is a Nazi. Anyone that voted for Trump is a racist. And this is my thing. When Pixar can give you a better understanding from The Incredibles, when everyone is a hero, then no one is a hero. When you're telling that everyone that you see is a racist or is a Nazi, then you're never going to be able to point them out when it actually does happen.
It's always fun being referred to as a Nazi as like a Jewish Republican too. Like that's always a fun thing, you know, that seems like it happens.
No, actually, you don't think it's not? I mean, it hurts when people, and we are always joking around here, but this is a little bit serious. That just because I'm a Republican, but my skin color doesn't match what I should be acting like, or when someone's commenting to me and they're assuming it's my wife, it's the white blonde that is commenting about Republican stuff. When no, I'm the big Hispanic guy that is commenting it. And so like it sucks and it's super offensive. But as a Republican of color, you take it and you move on.
Yeah, being persecuted by the people who are telling you that you're being persecuted. Yeah. I put that clip together.
Anyone else tells me that I have to use Latinx, I will stab them in the face.
You have to listen to
threatening violence.
Stupid.
Bert Kreischer and Tom Segura, they call his cousin in Peru on their latest podcast and ask him about the Latinx thing. And I mean, it's so funny. You guys do watch
and I don't want to be racist, but it's white liberal people telling colored people how they should be talking to other colored people. How is that not racist? But I digress.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and start to kind of bring this in with our final topic of the day. And again, this one hits right here at home. We're ending up on a local topic. Again, one that Jake just absolutely loves talking about, which is all for transportation, currently getting a hearing in the Florida Supreme Court. And so far, for those of us who are against being the highest sales tax in the state, we're starting to celebrate, I would say, maybe a little preemptively, but so far it looks like it's going in the right direction. In terms of repealing the 1.5% tax, and he's not even paying attention. So it's the all for transportation tax. Again, that was passed as a referendum. It was done by ballot initiative. And so Stacey White, along with some other attorneys here in town, have made the case that there's just all sorts of problems with this piece of legislation, as there typically is. And I think it was very misleading, and those things are starting to come to light, and it could unravel the whole thing.
Yeah, I think that what you're seeing here is, again, while this was all getting passed through and you had all of these people that were behind all for transportation and the millions and millions of dollars that were put behind this campaign, so that they could, again, get a 1.5% sales tax out of the, the community. it was written in a way that, like the Democrats like to claim that it was written in a way people knew what they were voting for. Again, and I do think this is the attitude of the voters, is that, they just want transportation fixed, and they thought that this was going to be the part where it actually gets done. And
I'm just looking at you.
I'm not sure if you're ripping my point up or you're ripping up everybody else's point. But anyway, so the thing is, though, is that people did expect that this is going to solve the transportation issue in Tampa, but in the reality is that it created another extension of the county commission, where you have another unelected body of people that are supposed to be determining what projects these are used on, right? Like that's supposed to be the responsibility of the county commission, which is what Stacey White is saying.
And all of them from within the city of the majority of them from within the city of Tampa.
Yeah, of course, and they're all from the city of Tampa. And Some of us got really busy this week, or else we were going to write an op-ed on this situation. I'm working on it.
I was at a parade, so that's what I did this weekend.
No, it wasn't. Yeah, it's not on you. It's on me. I've been busy. But there really is it's going through the courts now, and the courts sided with Stacey White's opinion on the lower courts, and now they're going up to the Supreme Court trying to fight it and say no, the whole thing should be enacted. In reality, it's I think they are going to do it piece by piece, and I think that what's going to end up happening here is, again, as Republicans, we want transportation to be solved, and people did vote for this, but what they didn't really vote for and what they didn't really want is, again, an unconstitutional extra layer of government that's unelected, that's the ones determining where this goes. And then again, there's also other provisions in it that talk about what it can't be used on as well, which includes things like roads, that need to be fixed. Yeah. And so there's provisions in it that don't really address the problems that people really want to see. I think when voters do read this, when we're reading this as an amendment, they're reading it as it's just for transportation and not really getting into all the details. And so the argument to me of, well, people know what they're voting for, they're just trying to thwart the will of the voters. I think that the amendment was written to ignore the will of the voters a lot, because of the fact that, again, it added in all these extra little provisions. And again, the Supreme Court looks like it's going to side with Stacey White because of the way it was written.
We know a lot of people that are super supportive of this position, and they are super backing it. And again, we these are our friends. However, those individuals that talk about, well, you're going against the vote of the people. You yourself, by introducing this bill, were going around the people to begin with.
Yeah.
And you thought that just putting the language in a certain way would allow for it to go around it. No, we need to be, if you're going to tax me, and get me wrong, I don't want new taxes. We went from 7 to 8.5% income for the local taxes. Yeah. You feel it when you buy a car. You feel it when you buy a washer and dryer. You feel it when you're buying something at the supermarket. And so that's when people actually feel the increase of the taxes. And so my issue is this: the whole purpose of this country was fighting people, taxation without representation. If you're going to tax me and we're going to push it through, then I need to know who is responsible for making sure that these projects get done, and who I can vote out of office if it gets done poorly. This took away the responsibility of our elected officials and put it on a board that is not elected, and that's my biggest problem with this.
And that's what everyone's biggest point is. And one of the things I have not heard anybody bring up, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago, is that we had a organization in Tampa, which was only a few years ago, called the Public Transportation Commission, and it was the PTC. Yep. When Uber was coming in, they did things that were thwarting Uber, right? Kind of a little bit. I actually kind of agreed with where they were going with it, but they were basically. There was controversy around, because again, you have an unelected board making decisions around transportation, and we literally had to go to the state and eventually they decided to dissolve the whole thing. So basically, and Democrats were complaining about this, by the way. They were complaining about the PTC just 2 or 3 or 4 years ago, whatever it was. And then it was abolished. And now they went back on the and created a new PTC. They renamed it something else, and they basically restaffed that board with other people who are going to do the projects that they want. And it's just people don't see what's going on here because, again, if you're at a broader level, if you're in the city of Tampa, like, you just want your transportation fixed. Like, you don't care about the weeds
and we all
of all of these things,
we all
right?
agree on that. We want transportation fixed.
But that's the reality of what happened here. Like, you dissolved a board that was doing exactly the things that we're complaining about, and then you replaced it with another board that's going to do the exact same things, but for the left. And now here we are.
If they can introduce new taxes, they're going to do it. So do you guys agree that the transportation issue should be fixed without this extra tax? We should be able to do it.
No, I think
everywhere else in the country does this without a 1.5% tax in their counties.
I think we are a very large, very integral part of the Tampa Bay area. Millions of people are passing through our ports, our airport, our roads, and there's really no way to figure out how to tax that properly. We need to be able to move forward and not get stuck and understand that we're going to need to figure out other ways to transport people.
But there are taxes out there already for it. I mean, there's gas taxes.
Yeah, but that's federal. That goes to the federal, and then we have to
there's
request
county
it.
taxes in there too.
We've got the thing is there's federal taxes that can be pulled from it. Like Chris, to your point, I do think that Tampa could have solved a lot of these problems through public-private partnerships. I do think that they could solve a lot of these problems without a 1.5% sales tax, right? Like, we have another 1% tax that we just voted in last time, the last election as well, alongside of this, that was supposed to go and fix all of the schools and their air conditioning. Guess what? Their air conditionings aren't fixed yet. So, I mean, yeah, exactly. So don't tell me like we need more money and we need to tax people to do it if you're not going to be able to manage the money correctly, which is what it comes down to, and what's always the argument when it comes to the school board, when it comes to your local elected officials. Like, the government is not capable of taking large sums of money and applying it appropriately and actually getting their money's worth out of contracts, deciding on the right projects, and then again not handing it to their friends that run X company.
We literally just fired the Hillsborough County Superintendent because of this issue.
Not just that, we also who else just got fired? The head of Hart.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Yes.
So now we have 1.5 percent of our sales tax going to an all for transportation fund that is largely going to go to buses and bus rapid transit, which is just buses. And
you're not solving the problem. You're adding to the problem.
And the person that is in charge of it is going down for like corruption and like illegally
less than a year. I think you see less than a year and you got knocked out.
Let's just put more cash there.
It's crazy.
And that's where I agree with you. That's where
the problem
is. They cannot fix the problem with the money they have right now. Then you shouldn't be given more money. You're not giving me a logical explanation of why you should be given more money. If the buses were full, if they were running at high capacity, then I could completely understand why a tax is needed.
If they were running at full capacity, they wouldn't need more money to go do anything, right? Like, people would pay for the bus, but it's not a viable way of transporting people.
No, it's subsidized.
And now everyone wants free transportation, where it's free buses and everything else. That doesn't make any sense. You need to pay for the mode of transportation that you are taking, so that it benefits the entire society.
And that's the new rallying cry from the far left. Is now they want free public transportation.
Well, but it's not.
There was a huge demonstration in New York City. There was a huge protest in New York City where they practically shut down one of the subway train stations because they were demanding free public transportation.
But that's the thing, is that it's not just the far left that is pushing for this, right? Like, you have conversations with anybody that works in these industries, right? Like someone that works at Hart or name any other metropolitan transit authority. They're looking at you and they're going, it's not supposed to make money. Literally, quote. I've heard this quote multiple times. It's not supposed to make money. It's supposed to be free. And so it's not the far left necessarily, Johnny. Like, it's the left. Yeah. They just everyone's accepted that transit never makes money, but you need it, and it actually is going to do better for the community and all that. And there's a whole bunch of arguments behind it. And again, I think it's important to try and solve these problems. I just feel like nobody's ever looking at, again, trying to move it to private business. The people that are going to do it the right way, people that are going to do it. And again, is it going to be profitable for them? Like, yeah, probably, because they're going to be the ones that actually have stake in it, not trying to fumble around with a 1.5% sales tax with billions of dollars laying around a giant pot trying to figure out who gets it.
Yeah, by the way, Mr. Research over there, I happened to look up the 2019 federal, state, and county tax rates on motor fuel and diesel fuel. Hillsborough County currently has 51.3 cents of total taxes on gas. 18.4 of that is federal. And about 7 of that is actually county.
So 7% of 51 cents.
No, 7 of this 51 cents.
That's literally what I just said.
No, you said 7%.
No, you said 7%. That's a difference.
15%.
7 of.
I don't know
7
where we're
cents
going
of-
with
I
this.
don't know where we're going.
Anyway,
No, anyway, that we're already being taxed by the county in our gas
absolutely.
consumption. And so again, it's a mismanagement of funds. It's the fact that they would rather, spend it on other pet projects rather than going out there and fixing the streets and the roads like they should be.
Well, I don't know how it is in Hillsborough, but I looked at my my county taxes for Pinellas
Going up.
and you're spending between $200 and $500 a year on just funding PSTA.
Which
you ride a
has
bus or
also
not?
had people having to resign in the past for mismanagement of funds. Like, it's crazy to me that I have to like stand up on like a pedestal of like a podcast and like look at everybody in the face and be like, hey guys, like, I know you all want buses, but like, can you guys organize it and actually spend the money in the right place? Like, I mean, again, you have all these people embroidered in controversy with all of these local like authorities, and again, it's not being handled right. And you want more money, and then you complain that we go and like file a lawsuit about it, right?
Look at 275. We spent $1 billion reconstructing West Shore.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about 275. I don't
want
want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it.
talk about it at
Or,
all.
like Michelle yells at me every time that I talk about the lane situation on I-4.
Oh, it's so stupid.
But that's the same conversation that I get yelled at when the air conditioner doesn't work at certain schools
Exactly.
with our underground teacher railroad when it comes to
Well, let
talking
me
to
tell
Republicans.
you. I mean, hell, like I didn't go to school for engineering, but Jesus Christ, some of the stuff that they've done around here just doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Well, because they pander to again, I've said this before. They pander to like one house where like they don't want to knock it down because of something, and then all of a sudden, like now we have to run 5 lanes of 75-mile-an-hour traffic into one 90-degree lane because you have to go around this one house because it's historically important or something like that. Like, whatever the reason is, like that's what ends up happening.
You're talking about the American Italian building.
I am not talking about any building or
American
person
German
in
building,
particular. I am talking about generally.
I'm almost positive that's the building you're talking about.
I am just generally
which is
talking
a
about
historical, nationally treasured landmark.
That's not what I'm talking about.
Hillsborough County.
I'm not talking about anything in
Build
particular.
the freeway.
I am talking. I am talking about the fact that you run lane. The engineers have to do stupid things that they wouldn't usually do based on political pressure to not either knock something down or again like they want to avoid breaking up a neighborhood or something along those lines. Like, but again, like it's regional transit, and
or they want to separate a neighborhood,
or they want to bring it back together.
Yeah.
The conversation of getting rid of 275 going north and reunifying like Seminole Heights is the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
That's
in
a
my
Seminole
life.
Heights idea, Anibal. What is
I
going
know,
on over
that's
there?
the-
Do you not go talk to all of them? Are you in the community chats?
I'm like the third Republican. We actually am. The wife and I are, and we watch and we see how bad it gets with the scrolling. It gets fun.
Yeah.
But they want to turn it into like a boulevard. They want to tear it down, and I'm like, no, I want to be able to get on the highway in 2 minutes and get where I need to go. And I think it's so ridiculous because they make these comments, these bold comments, and you're like, this. I could never. I can't. I don't understand how you got elected.
All right.
Transit.
Well,
That's how we really feel.
Man. Although we had a lot to talk about, we certainly got it in a shorter amount of time than we have in previous episodes. So kudos to you guys for keeping it short and sweet. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching the Yard Sign. We're going to start bringing it in to a close. I know the guys have some announcements, so we're not done just yet. But again, we appreciate you. Please make sure you review and subscribe, especially if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts. The reviews mean everything. Just a handful of reviews could put us on the front page. So make sure you subscribe and leave us a review on any of the platforms that you may be watching this show. What are you guys doing over there? Oh my God!
Children, please.
My goodness! Hold on, let me see so I can watch you guys here in the corner of my eye while I'm trying to close up the show. Anyhow, again, if you'd like to financially support the show, we do have our Patreon page up at patreon.com/theyardsign. Anyways, announcements. Go, Anibal.
Oh. I was going to go first. I want to say one thing. Announcement. The U.S. economy brought, in the month of January...
That's not an announcement.
...brought $224,000 100,000 jobs and increased participation
Jobs,
rate.
Anibal?
I think it was awesome. Jobs. We're creating more jobs.
Anyway,
Lots of jobs, the best jobs.
I do
the
have
biggest jobs.
Biggest jobs. So I do have an announcement. The first ship that was ever named for the Enterprise was actually a U.S. battleship in 1777.
We are talking about Star Trek on the end of. Please rip that up. Anyway, Chris, you have any
Nobody
other
was around
announcements?
back then.
No, George Washington was around back then.
Do you announcements?
Thank you for the comments, everybody that's commented in my live stream. I appreciate the input. Helps me kind of guide where I'm going with my statements. Please, more comments. Thank you for watching. Jake?
I'm going to say it again. I think that, again, we have 2 panelists from TBYR going to be at Tiger Bay Club tomorrow at around, I think it's at 6 p.m. is when it starts.
Yes.
Again, they're going to have a round table of millennials in politics. That's tomorrow night. I think it's at the Cuban Club, right?
I believe
Ybor.
it's a Cuban club. We will.
It's in Tampa Bay Young Republicans Facebook page. We posted it. We posted the event. It's on Facebook. Go see that. Again, Anibal's going to be talking there. I'll bring some extra paper to rip up everything he's.
Jake will be supervising as I make a representation of the Young Republicans.
Oh my God! I will buy you lunch if at the end of the panel you rip up, and there needs to be video or photographic documentation. If you rip up some papers at the end of the panel, I will buy you lunch or dinner.
I will say this. I will let you record. There will be a time where I will either say like impeachment or like something, impeachment articles. I'll rip it up that way. I promise I will do something on purpose tomorrow during the panel. If you are watching this and you're a part of the panel ahead of time, do not tell on me.
Oh, yeah, and then again, there's also again, come to that event. Again, Tampa Bay Young Republicans. A lot of what we're doing right now is you're able to get involved as much as you want to be involved.
Yes.
We have it's 2020 election. There's all kinds of ways to get more involved. Manatee County has an event coming up. Is it tonight or tomorrow night?
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night, Manatee County, if you're watching in Manatee.
Shout out to Amy.
Shout out to Amy in Manatee. And then also come up to Tallahassee with us on the 21st, I believe.
21st and
22nd. We have the Florida Federation of Young Republicans state quarterly that's happening in Tallahassee that weekend. It'll be great. We're going to have lots of elected officials there that are going to be meeting and sitting down with us, and while we have our quarterly.
And then us talk about strategy for 2020.
Talk about strategy for 2020.
It's really important. I mean,
it's really important.
Door knocking, go canvassing local events. It's so important. If you agree with what we say in this podcast and you like what we have to promote, you can help out and you can help get people that you want to see elected in office.
Create a Facebook page.
Well, let me also say this about the quarterlies, because I started going to the quarterlies pretty soon after getting involved with the Young Republicans, and what it did for my career, what it's done for my social life, just my life in general. It's been amazing.
Your love life.
The only reason why we're still friends.
And again, I've made incredible friendships all throughout the state, that I've had to this day, 13, 14 years later. And I recommend it to everybody. I mean, it's a lot of fun. It's definitely a social organization, as well as an activist organization. And I owe so much to the Young Republicans, which is why I continue to be involved until they kick me out, which I know they're working on. But that'll be a topic for another day.
So again, I appreciate you watching. Keep supporting us. Go donate to our Patreon. Be our first donator. we need
donor.
We need donors because again, the one thing that we're gonna do with any money that comes in from Patreon is use it to boost these episodes. I mean, if we make $20 is gonna go to boost this episode, so more Young Republicans see it, more people see it.
Also, happy Valentine's Day for those that are in couples that want to celebrate that time. And also, I want to say, I know. I had to say it. The wife said it. Shout out to Leona for being a supporter of us. And donate $1, please. We need it.
All right. Thanks, guys. I think next week I won't be here, so you guys are going to have to try and carry on the torch without me.
Who are we going to find a face?
We actually might have a female back on the show next week.
Good.
I'll leave that as a teaser. Thank you again, everybody, for watching. Again, find us on every social media platform. Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts. We'll see you next week. So long.
He hates us so much.